As it is written in the Covenant of Primus, when the 47 spheres align, a perpetual conflict will culminate upon a world forged from chaos, and the weak shall perish in the shadows of a rising darkness. Ye and the Leviathan would rise from the sea, its fury would be unto the inferno itself, and it would beckon, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am which is, which was, and is yet to come. And you will know my name as Unicron when I allay my vengeance upon you. Pity my remaining child, for he will be cast into the mind of my own creation. He shall be used to engineer dark and wondrous artifices. In the spark of an enemy, there will be salvation, and in the darkest hour, there will be light. Welcome back to the Many Toys of. I've been trying to scare you the entire month. And if I can't scare you with man-made ideas, if I cannot frighten you with possessions, with abuse, with extortion, then I shall call upon the devil to usher in this All Hallows Eve. It is time for the Many Toys of Unicron. Before we begin, a big thank you to Chuito101, Cobalt Dragon 7072, Contra Fernicus, The Alan Wayne 7143, Toxitron 7385, Jaketimus Prime 4634, Nerdy Bricks, Super Pixel Warrior 6893, Maximu Prime Toys 38, Gengar Ultimate, Sketchy Productions 231, J. Claire Love, Remington Morningstar, The Mr. O'Commodon, O'Duffy3633, Hayden24, and also Unicron himself? The Chaos Bringer has been begging for his video for months now, and I only hope it was worth the wait. If you are unfamiliar with Unicron, you've probably not been in the fandom for all that long. He is the ultimate evil of the Transformers universe, the beginning and the end. He is effectively their version of Satan, far worse than any Decepticon or Quintesson could ever hope to be. After all, he was voiced by Orson Welles, one of the most legendary actors of all time, and even though Orson Welles phoned in his lines, quite literally, it gave Unicron a menace unlike the other Decepticons. Megatron and Starscream and the others would scream and shout and holler. They'd be cartoony, and in that way, enjoyable, enduring. Meanwhile, Unicron speaks with a slow, monotonous tone. He does not show any form of emotion, aside from the brief periods where he's angry. And even that anger ultimately gives out to indifference. When he's destroying Cybertron, it's not treated as though he's going on a rampage. He treats it more like he's swatting at a fly that up until that point he was going to let get away, but the fly kept invading his personal space. Unicron is ancient. He is a form of authority far older than you, and he will outlast you. Why should he be beholden to your well-being, or the well-being of your pitiful planet? He has seen those planets form and fall apart. Stars are born, black holes formed from their ashes. Unicron was there before them, and he'll be there after them. Despite being the main character of the 1986 movie, Unicron would never have a G1 toy, though there were two known prototypes. One was made entirely by Takara Tomy, and would have actually included one of Cybertron's moons as part of his alternate mode. The second, much more famous prototype was co-produced by Hasbro and Takara, and even though this is more accurate, it'd be a stretch to call either one of them screen perfect. Even still, it would have been great to have these toys come out in the 80s. In spite of not having a toy in G1, Unicron was so important that he actually managed to appear in the Beast Wars. Granted, it was just in a flashback, and not even a true flashback, of the Ghost of Starscream. However, it's clear that the Beast Wars cast still know about Unicron. When the Vok want to take an authoritative form in front of Primal, they steal the face of Unicron. And later on, Megatron uses the name Unicron in a derisive way when talking about Tarantulas. Now it's worth noting, Unicron would only appear in those tangential ways here in the United States. But in Japan, Unicron was a much more active character in the Beast era. You see, he was the main villain of Beast Wars Neo, and was even able to steal the form of Beast Wars 2 Galvatron to act as his avatar. Which means, technically, Unicron's first toy is Beast Wars Galvatron. An incredibly fun toy, a triple changer, which was extremely rare for the Beast era. And granted, it's a little bit of an odd triple changer. We go from a great stocky robot, to a pretty solid dragon, to a cool, but definitely somewhat odd looking tank. But I do enjoy that it at least invokes G1 Galvatron's turret mode. And overall, I'm always going to be a big fan of Beast Wars Galvatron. I think he's an amazing design. Unfortunately, this toy is riddled with gold plastic. And moreover, a lot of his joints become loose over time. Even if you're able to get him complete, you're going to have to keep him standing still, lest you risk breaking him or making his joints too loose to hold up his own weight. I'll tell you what's even sadder. We were supposed to get a Beast Wars Neo Unicron toy, and just look at this guy. He would have been about the same height as Optimal Optimus, a colossal figure, and I love this look for Unicron. He looks more bestial. Sure, there's a ton of kibble on the go, but I kind of enjoy it. Unicron is so unique compared to almost any other major G1 character. Even though he was popular enough to appear in both American and Japanese media during the 90s, when most G1 mainstays weren't even mentioned, he didn't get his first proper toy until 2002, which is when we got the Hard Hero porcelain statue of him. In 2003, Unicron made his grand return to television in the Unicron Battles, the final season of the Armada cartoon. Here, Unicron was even more detached. Say what you will about G1 Unicron, sure, Orson Welles gave him a very bored voice, but at the very least Unicron spoke, and he would emote showing his moments of anger. Here in Armada, Unicron would only speak when he possessed characters like Sideways. But left to his own devices, he never spoke, he never blinked, he never emoted. Even when he was dying, he remained entirely stone-faced. And it was with the Armada toy line that Unicron would get his first ever proper action figure. And sure, he is very much more the Armada design than the G1 design, but for me, this is the Unicron toy. I'm sorry, my childhood was spent yearning for this Unicron. In my head, this is how Unicron looks. I know we've got a much more accurate Unicron since then, especially if you're looking for the G1 boy, but this is how I imagine this character in toy form. The translucent hand that's able to glow, the clear chest that can pop out and you can shoot a missile like it's the Death Star, the planet mode with the purple hemisphere, the maw, the closing horns. And of course, when he transforms, he's very articulated, especially for a toy from this era with this chonky a design. It helps that he has a ton of Minicon ports, and his own Minicon, Dead End, forms Moonbase 1. That's kind of cool. And of course, he's filled to the brim with missiles. He can shoot any ship that Megatron or Optimus might send his way. This Unicron has a ton of gimmicks, and yet is still a fully realized and fleshed out action figure. It took nearly 20 years for us to get a proper toy of the main villain of the Transformers franchise, and I would argue this toy delivered. It delivered in spades. For an Armada figure especially, he was years ahead of his time. The articulation, the paint, the sculpting, and even the gimmicks make this one of the most important Transformers toys to ever come out. It gets even better. By the holidays, you'd be able to get this same Unicron with the Air Military Minicon team packed in. What a lot of people didn't realize was that Armada was only the first part of a 3-part story, going from Armada to Transformers Energon to finally Transformers Cybertron. Years later, this would officially be known as the Unicron trilogy, still the name we use for this era to this very day. But at the time, it was surprising to see that the next Transformers cartoon would be a direct sequel to Armada, complete with Megatron's corpse still plastering the inside of a dead Unicron. When the Decepticons brought Megatron back to life, they also began to rejuvenate Unicron, until he too was able to reform, and would once again cause havoc for every Cybertronian. Unicron's Energon toy is one of the most unique Unicrons to ever come out, and I love this deco. It's so sickly. In a weird way, this is kind of how I imagine the Beast Wars Neo Unicron should have looked. It looks as though this character is poisonous, like there's almost a radiation coming off him. Yeah, it's not exactly your bog standard Unicron, it's definitely a much more niche look for the guy, but I appreciate it, and I'm glad that there's options, especially when it's just this good looking. Later this same year, you'd be able to get a European exclusive McDonald's Happy Meal Unicron. This is, I believe, the smallest transforming Unicron toy. And yeah, he's simple, but keep in mind, Happy Meal toy, and a pretty solid one at that. If you would like to find out even more about this Unicron, go check out Friendly Neighborhood Geek's video on the Happy Meal toy. Truth be told, it's the only video I've ever seen talking about this Kids Meal Unicron. 2006 would be the end of the Unicron trilogy, and we would send it off with quite a few Unicron toys. Starting off small, you'd be able to get the Titanium Series Unicron. This 3-inch tall Robot Master is a decent representation of the guy. What's a lot more interesting are the Unicrons that would come in the proper Cybertron toy line. You see, Unicron got a deluxe figure, and you might think he looks a bit odd at first. After all, he's transforming into a tank now. But what you need to know is that this is a Unicron slowly but surely rebuilding himself. Keep in mind, in the Marvel Comics, Unicron and Primus start out the size of normal human beings. Everything that they would become is after millions and millions and millions of years of detritus growing around them. So essentially, Unicron is back to square one, slowly reforming his massive body, and so far, he's only gotten to be about the size of a normal Transformer. But it means that we have one of the most unique versions of Unicron ever in toy form, and I love it. The shoulder-mounted cannon, the massive claws that kind of invoke the maw, and of course that head sculpt. It is truly fantastic. It helps that he kind of looks like Sideways, which makes me feel that there's a great connection between Unicron and Planet X. That was always kind of implied in the American dub of Cybertron, but never outright said. I feel like this toy is the missing link between Armada Sideways and Cybertron Sideways, and I'm sure that there's a Vector Prime post out there somewhere on Facebook that confirms that. That said, you could also get a toy of Unicron's original body this year. Kinda. You see, if you got Cybertron Primus, he came with Unicron's severed head that was supposed to still be in orbit around him. That is gnarly and amazing, and I love it. The Transformers would return to the big screen in 2007, and even though Unicron wasn't in the movie, you better believe he was getting some representation on toy shelves, like the Art Asylum statue. Look at this! It is amazing! On the other end of the spectrum, there was the Robot Heroes Unicron, and come on guys, that's the wrong Prime. That's the wrong Prime. 2008 would be an interesting year for Unicron. For one, his Armada toy was re-released in the Universe toy line. I suppose there was also the Diamond Select Megatron reformatted bust. The base of the statue is Unicron, so I guess that counts? It didn't get much better in 2009. Unicron is still just the base of a statue, but this time it's Galvatron. I'll tell you a minor retool that made a ton of people happy came out in 2010, where you could have gotten the Universal Dominator Unicron. This was Takara Tomy taking the Armada Unicron toy and doing a ton of remolding and of course recoloring to make Unicron more G1 accurate. And I think it's a valiant attempt. It honestly shows just how much a new coat of paint and some slightly new sculpting can change the identity of a figure. I could almost buy that this was an entirely new mold. until you get to the vehicle mode. As soon as he's in the planet mode, there's no mistaking, that's still the original Armada boy. But in robot mode, I think this Unicron is gorgeous, and for a long time would have been the final word in Unicron toys. In 2011, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the G1 Transformers movie, the 2010 Japanese Unicron became the Supreme Class Amazon exclusive Unicron. He's about the same, though admittedly I think his colors are a little bit more dull. Of course, 2012 would show, duller does not always mean worse. We got the United Arc Unicron, and taking that original Cybertron mold and giving it this much darker deco, I think makes it pop even more. I love just how ragged this Unicron looks. I think it's really selling the idea that this is a Unicron slowly reforming, and he's not taking the time to bathe himself because he's too hell-bent on returning to his former glory. Of course, let's not take away the fact that 2012 was the year that Unicron would be introduced to a whole new generation of Transformers fans due to his inclusion in Transformers Prime. As early as the first episode, Unicron is referenced as the creator of the Dark Energon. Dark Energon was the lifeblood that once flowed through Unicron's veins. Throughout Season 1, Prime and the Autobots would question why so much Dark Cybertron was naturally occurring on Earth. Megatron had to travel the cosmos just to find a little, and now they were finding it here on the one planet everyone was marooned on. Until they realized Unicron was at the very core of the planet Earth, and was attempting to possess Megatron, very similar to how G1 Unicron possessed Galvatron. Eventually, Optimus and Megatron working together were able to defeat Unicron at the end of Season 1, though his consciousness lived on, and when Megatron died at the end of Season 3, he was resurrected, though he was no longer in control of his body. Instead, Unicron had taken him as an avatar. To be sure, Prime Unicron has a very different appearance for the guy, and it would have been hard to truly capture it in toy form, but by God, Takara Tomy gave it a go, and we got Gaia Unicron. Now, Arms Micron Gaia Unicron is cool. I like him, though I think he's missing some of the appeal of the Prime design. This Unicron's just way too bright and poppy. And even though I enjoy just how outright demonic this Unicron can look, I don't know how I feel about his transformation. There's a ton of parts forming, and when he does transform, he's either armor for Optimus Prime, or he's his own head? Weird decisions, admittedly. I'll tell you the even weirder decision. In 2013, we got a show-accurate Unicron, but only in a 2-pack with Optimus. And they were packaged together because they were selling the fact that Unicron could become the armor as the major reason to pick up the toy. Again, I think you're pairing Unicron up with the wrong leader here, guys. Megatron is right over there. Later that year, there was also Nightmare Unicron, and it's still okay, but this feels just a bit too try-hard. Maybe he could pair up well with a Nemesis Prime, but truth be told, if you're getting this mold, get the Gaia Unicron that came with Optimus. I think he just looks the best overall. Unicron would take a few years off before returning in 2016. Starting out small, you could have gotten the Tiny Titans Unicron. Why does Unicron have a knife? A really funny Unicron is the ex-Goken Unicron head. You can have so much fun giving this guy different expressions, changing out the eyebrows, moving the mouth. Our old friend Armada Unicron would also be repainted one more time and put in the Platinum line. 2017 would give us the weirdest Unicron of all time, in my humble opinion, with the Soldier Story Unicron. Now look at this guy. Incredibly expensive. 26 inches tall, sculpted to the nines, well painted, beautiful. Now what is this thing? A statue? No, it's a desk lamp. That said, 2021 was an even weirder year for Unicron. Not the Symbiote Studios Unicron plush. That's just a stuffed animal with someone's severed head. Normal stuff there. No. I'm talking about the Haslab Unicron. Now, this guy is the single largest official Transformer of all time. And until we got the divorced class Metroplex last year, he was the largest Transformer, period. He is 30 inches wide. He is 27 inches tall. He is fully articulated, with alternate faceplates that can come on or off, removable eyes that can pose as well. You of course have the wings, all those spikes, and a maw that is able to open. This toy was $575. Just to be clear, that's $575, right at the tail end of the pandemic. And even worse, now just stick with me, please stick with me. This was a Haslab. In fact, it was the first Transformers Haslab, and it did eventually get its budget, but it was only after several extensions because Hasbro bit off a bit more than they could chew. Truth be told, I'm not a big fan of Haslab. I feel like it is an excuse to exclude a huge chunk of the fandom, and also, just my personal 2 cents, most of the Haslab toys have inexcusable quality control. Between Omega Prime's cracks and all of the issues that surrounded this Unicron, I still don't want to go in on a Haslab because I'm worried about it breaking and there being no way to get replacements. By the way, there were issues with this Unicron. A ton. All those spikes can break off. The maw, those little teeth that pop out, can be ripped out. The face can have a hard time going back on. And even better, this toy, that keep in mind, $575, and that's before shipping, he can't stand up on his own. He needs to use his stand. And sure, the guy is massive, but there's very little paint. I say that. There's a ton of paint, but the paint all has to go to specific places, meaning that the overall canvas is still somewhat drab. And I could forgive all of that. If it weren't for the stories of the people who had their Unicrons break in the box, and instead of getting new Unicrons, Hasbro would send them old Siege toys. It still breaks my heart to hear about the people who asked for a replacement and instead got 3 Siege Soundwaves. This Unicron was ambitious, but I also think this Unicron was bloated, and quite frankly, more than a little bit overhyped. You know what, call me a sellout if you want, but let's just go ahead, pump the brakes, talk about third party, because Unicron only has one third party toy, and it's the Studio Cell guy. And sure, this toy is expensive. And sure, Hasbro tried to sue this company into oblivion because this Unicron got announced at the same time they were doing the Haslab campaign. But you want to know the difference between this Unicron and the Haslab Unicron? You can still buy this Unicron. Studio Ox still produces it. You're still able to purchase it if you're a new fan, or if you couldn't have swung a $600 toy in 2021. There hasn't been a proper Transformers action figure of Unicron since the Haslab. But truth be told, I understand. How can you possibly do something like that again? We'll probably get another Unicron someday, but I can't imagine they'll ever go that scale ever again. If anything, we'll probably get something a lot closer to the Armada Unicron again someday. But that doesn't mean that we haven't had Unicrons since then. Far from it, in 2022, we get a lot of tchotchkes of the guy, like the Icon Heroes Unicron pin holder. There was the Funko Pop Unicron, which stands 10 inches tall, and truth be told, I think looks pretty good for a Funko Pop. That said, I think the winner of the year has to be the Reaction Unicron. This is the Super 7 3 3/4 inch style action figures, and they have given us a non-transforming version of that original Unicron prototype. We're going to skip ahead to 2024, where there would be another Reaction Unicron, but this one represents the other prototype, the one that had more green on it. And then there was another Reaction Unicron, though this was a yellow version and was supposed to look a little bit more like how he actually looked in the movie. That brings us to 2025, where I think the single best Unicron thing of all time is going to be released. But let's start off small with the Blockies Unicron head. Released in the Galaxy version, I think this is a ton of fun. It's a cool build, and it's a nice change of pace from the usual guys we get in the Galaxy version. There is also a clear version of this head, though this was only released in select retail stores. But no. The Unicron that I think is the single best we've ever gotten is the Sideshow Unicron. Look at this statue. He's sitting on a throne, and his armrests are the destroyed remains of Earth and Cybertron. He looks outright demonic, and I adore it. You know, I'm not a statue person. I like my toys to be able to pose, but there's something about Unicron, his statuesque nature, that makes it to where I think he's best conveyed as a statue. And this statue is massive. I think it perfectly captures what is scary about Unicron, what invokes fear and intimidation when you use this character in a story. It is the most menacing a Unicron has ever looked, either in toy form or in general. I dare you to find a comic book panel or an episode of a TV show where Unicron looks this outright insidious. And that's it. I've been trying to figure out why Unicron works. Because to be sure, he's a very convoluted character, especially if you want to start including the club fiction, where it turns out that every Unicron was actually the same guy, until about the 2010s, where FunPub then retconned it into all the Unicrons splitting into their own consciousnesses. But even still, Unicron is intimidating. Unicron does invoke a certain awe from Transformers fans. I think that overall, the franchise have used Unicron sparingly. It'd be real easy to go straight to Unicron in a story. And yet there are some continuities where Unicron never shows up, like Animated or Cyberverse. And I think that means that when Unicron does appear, he does invoke a certain dread. Even though we've never seen any of our main continuities be destroyed by Unicron, we've seen plenty of what-if stories, and more than a few Vector Prime continuities that did lose to Unicron. And even if he doesn't destroy a planet, he's killed so many of our beloved characters that we know that we cannot take him lightly. It also helps that Unicron isn't belligerent. He's not a berserker, he's not a mindless animal, and yet he's also not a criminal mastermind. He's not a schemer, he doesn't plan things out. As I said before, Unicron is less a force of nature and more nature itself. Unicron is not just a cataclysm. A cataclysm is too small. A cataclysm is an earthquake, a tsunami, a tornado. Unicron isn't any of those. Those things appear in his wake. Unicron is not human. Unicron is not Cybertronian. Unicron isn't living. There is nothing about him that tethers him to any sense of morality or sentimentality, and yet he's also not a mindless destroyer. He does have the ability to speak. He does have the ability to make decisions, but that's not what drives him. He doesn't do these things because he's malicious necessarily. He destroys because he is entropy. He is the energy that allows new things to be created in their wake. With no Unicron, there would be no universe. He destroyed the old universe and gave the energy that would allow Primus to form Cybertron and the rest of our universe to form around us. In that way, Unicron is a life-bringer, but only by destroying life. He is authority. He is absolute. He is finality. Why should he ever have to stop to explain to the insects why he does what he does? What he is able to perform is the absolute cosmic need for things to be destroyed and born again. In that way, he is a god. And how can we ever begin to comprehend what a god will do? But guys, I'll ask you, which was your favorite Unicron? And is there a Unicron you're trying to track down right now? I am kind of amazed. We got through it. All of the October episodes are in the bag, in the pocket, out of sight. And I'm pretty happy with the lineup. I think we had a decent set of characters this month, and I only hope that we can carry that momentum on into November. By the way, guys, if you'd like to support me or the show, I'm on Patreon. $1 will allow you to access my Discord server, Moonbase 1. $5 will allow you to watch videos early and download videos directly from me. And then $10 will make you a producer. You'll show up in every video I make from now on, as well as be able to make direct Patreon requests to me. Thank you guys all so much for watching throughout the month. And hey, we'll see what we get up to next time.